Hang in there. It
that. Smylie Kaufman for 61. Wow.
I'm Smylie Kaufman, and this is The Smylie Show.
Smylie, the 2025 major season is over, much to our dismay, but we're not ready to cap it off quite yet. This kind of feels like, to me, and I'd love to hear your input on this as well, this is like the day after Christmas. We're kind of in that week between Christmas and the New Year. New Year's Eve is kind of like the Ryder Cup at Bethpage. We still have that to look forward to a little bit, but we're on the come down from the holiday season. We're getting ready for the bleak months to follow without high leverage golf. But that's okay, because in addition...
I would say like the best way to explain it is when you get back to school type of situation after Christmas break, which feels like forever. Like Christmas felt like ages ago.
Yeah.
But we're trying to remember what we got for Christmas, and people ask, well, what'd you get? And we're like, I don't really know what I got. And so that's kind of what this episode's all about.
You just nailed it on the head, because we're going to try to go back and relive all four of the majors this season, and trying to compile the highlights and the memories from the 2025 Masters feels like, what was the first gift I unwrapped? And I don't even really know what that was, and it's now like stashed at the bottom of my toy drawer because I got so many other things. So we're going to do that, but it's also kind of like it's a combination between that and the Super Bowl just ended, or whatever season just ended, and it's the way too early, mock draft for next season, or preview picks for who's going to win the Super Bowl next season, because we can already start looking ahead to the 2026 major season, and looking at venues, looking at kind of early outright winner odds. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to relive all that. We're going to start with the help of our friends from ShipSticks, which I feel like it's a wistful send off. It's like, the trip's over, the golf trip's over. You pack the bag up, you're sending it home. At least it's going to get home safely. But it's a season ended.
Who won the thing? How do you figure that out? When's that get announced?
That's a great question.
Now I'm kind of like in on who wins this deal, and hopefully it comes from our show.
I'm a little invested myself. I just fired off an email to our friend Aaron at ShipSticks with all the different kind of promos we did for it. Maybe I'll have to check back with her and say, hey, can we get a little payoff here? Can we get one last send off of who the lucky winner was that's going to Ireland? This is just we're going to send ShipSticks off with just a little promo code for you to ship your sticks wherever you want to go to play golf as the season wraps up, which you'll have more time to now because you won't be watching major golf. ShipSticks gets you from your front door to four easier than ever. They'll pick up your golf clubs from your home or office and deliver them on time, guaranteed, to your golf destination anywhere in and outside the United States. No more airport headaches, no more lugging heavy bags, just easy, stress-free travel for golfers like you. The supporting benefits include white glove service, complimentary insurance, real-time tracking, door-to-door service, international shipping, and it's for any occasion. ShipSticks is perfect for buddies trips, business trips, even family vacations where managing kids, strollers, and extra luggage can ruin your vacation before it's even begun. That's actually on that note. I'm going to use ShipSticks when we head out. Well, when I head out to the Walker Cup at Cypress Point.
There you go.
About a month. So this is perfect. I do have something to look forward to. You can enjoy 20% off your next shipment by using the promo code Smylie. That's SMYLIE. And we'll put that link, as always, in the podcast and YouTube description. So we kind of teased it right there, Smylie. 2025 Majors recap, of course, starts with the Masters tournament. We led into the year. You picked Ludwig Oberg to win this tournament. I picked Scottie Scheffler, the winner, of course, Rory McIlroy. You got a lot of great notes here.
This wasn't our one and done picks. This was just our picks before the season started. Okay. I was about to call you out on using Scotty twice during the year.
No. This was when we were rounding up back in January. We were kind of sketching out the entire major season. Sure. We have to go back and look at those picks. And then we'll do the same thing next year. We look at what we predicted right now in the beginning of the season. But you've done a nice job here. Just kind of laying out the week that was in Augusta. So just take us through it. Let's have a little conversation about the 2025 Masters.
Well, I'm going to start with, first off, gosh, April feels like a long way away. And so it it's just that excitement, when that first major gets there, it's the buildup that we talked to the entire first part of the season. So I love just the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Masters Week. It is just the anticipation of having somebody you think is going to win, and by the end of Wednesday, you have 25 people that you have on your brain that could win the golf tournament. But besides just, the practice rounds and just how what Augusta is, I have really come to absolutely love and enjoy the Wednesday par 3 contest. And this year we were gifted some incredible content. First off, we had a couple guys go in the booth, Wyndham Clark and Max Homa, kind of mixing it up there with the broadcast. To have those guys be a part of it was fun and made it a little different. And then also you have like all of these players that are now playing, and it's funny because none of them seem to ever finish a hole. So none of them are ever going to win the par 3 contest. But I mean, just the goods we got from Tommy Fleetwood's kid, Frankie Fleetwood. I think the soundbite was maybe next year I'll be able to hit it over the pond in this like cute little Frankie Fleetwood accent. Just try to picture what that sounds like. And like Poppy, Rory's kid making a putt, Shane's daughter making a putt. And then Bennett's kid on the first tee was making noise while Scotty was about to hit his first shot. So that Wednesday par 3 contest kind of comes to mind as something that a lot of people would forget about, but it was really like one of the better par 3 contest days that I think we've had in quite some time.
I love starting there, given what we just talked about this last week at the Open Championship with Scotty talking about the importance of family. I mean, just thinking back to how family centric in a lot of ways that week is, and maybe the season's been. But I remember, the anticipation, the excitement you talk about showing up for the Masters. This is the first year that I actually sat in the press room and for the press building and got to ask questions of players. And I used one of my questions to ask Scotty what sort of merchandise shopping he was doing for Bennett that week. And we, of course, had Bennett scripted in Nike gear for the par 3 contest, which was hilarious. And just how cool that was. And then also on the back end of that week, as Rory's leading up to the tournament that could get him over the line to complete the career Grand Slam, which he eventually does, he talks about hanging out with Poppy after the Saturday round and watching Zootopia. So I just loved, I love the par 3 contest. We saw Poppy, play in that this year, and just the way that kind of this golf and family. In a lot of ways, that was a theme of this major season as well, which we love as dads who are watching our young kids grow up and take to the game of golf. And that's, it's nice to be able to zoom out and have that sort of special connection. And there's nothing in golf the entire year that is as good of a reminder of that as this par 3 tournament. I guess in addition to just watching Bennett Scheffler collect trophies.
Totally.
those are the two great reminders of that.
I would say honorable mentions of players that I think over time I'm eventually going to forget about their performance at the Masters this past year. I think honorable mention first is going to go to Justin Rose. I think over time I'm totally going to forget that he was in this playoff. Right now, I honestly have to remind myself every now and then. I was like, who was – like, I know he won the Grand Slam, but who did he beat again? Because like Justin Rose kind of came out of nowhere. He started the Masters with the 65 and was leading the golf tournament, and kind of he hung steady for quite some time during the golf tournament, and then Sunday kind of kicked it back up.
Justin Rose, and this has been a graphic we've seen at a number of different majors, is just this guy, doesn't matter how old he gets, and it's just he has such a veteran guile about him where he shows up to majors and he knows how to shoot a score and he stays in and around it. It feels like every single major. And I think that's an amazing and commendable thing. I mean, it is a bummer when you're the runner up a number of different times. This is not the first time he's been a runner up in the Masters tournament, but yeah, kudos to Justin Rose. I hope that factoid does not get lost in time, as it easily will when you're thinking about the winner being Rory McIlroy.
Totally. And the other honorable mention player too, I'm going to bring up here is actually Patrick Reed. I think I think a lot of people don't remember like that hole out at 17. It was just, kind of thrown in all the chaos that was going on. It's like, oh, went over to 17. And then just I think we talked about this during our journal or the recap right after the Masters, which is how cool it is to not have phones at Augusta National and all of the patrons behind the 18th green just watching the scoreboard and just trying to figure out what's going on in the tournament, trying to figure out what a roar is. But I can promise you this, a hole out eagle is going to be a Rory McIlroy yell and scream and shout and roar. So that probably was the most confusing thing for every patron on that 18th hole, being like, that wasn't what we expected to see Patrick Reed be the hole out at 17. They probably thought that was a Rory roar. So that would be an honorable mention, is that P. Reed had, I think, third. He finished third. Is that right?
Yeah,
right.
I'll pull the leaderboard up right here. I have it linked. I believe that was, it's all right. It's a solo third. He finished at 9 under. And it's funny looking back at this leaderboard because we just go through it. Rory McIlroy, Justin Rose finished at 11 under in the playoff. Patrick Reed third and 9 under. And then Scotty Scheffler solo fourth at 8 under, and we just, that's another one we just forget. Oh yeah, he was right there again there. Not a shocker for a guy who's won 2 green jackets, but just he's inevitable. And I almost forget the story of his week in some ways because we were so Rory centric. But it was then Sung J M tied for 5th alongside Bryson DeChambeau, Ludwig Oberg at solo 7th, Xander Schauffele and Zach Johnson both tied for 8th. It was a solid leaderboard.
Yeah, really, really nothing on those guys. The only other alternative storylines that I'll kind of mention here is, I think if the Ballester kid, the USAM player, it turns out to be something on Live or down the road, and his first time that he comes back to Augusta, I think we'll bring up, wasn't that the guy that pissed in Rays Creek?
Dude, not only did he piss in Rays Creek, but when asked about pissing in Rays Creek, said, "Yeah, I would have done it again." I mean, what are we doing here? I really don't know. I guess if he qualifies via, any other metric, whether it's live standings or, he plays well in other events and makes his way to the top 50 in the world rankings. I don't know that they'd bar him. I don't know that we're at a Wyndham Clark Oakmont situation yet, but I mean, he's going to be persona non grata around there. That's not, I wouldn't if you're an amateur out there, you listen to this podcast, you're looking at the way you're going to play your way into the Master Tournament. Find an outhouse. They're not hard to find.
He passed one. That's the problem on the same hole.
He'd forgotten. That was the explanation. I forgot there was one on 13T, and then I just had to go.
Well, I mean, you got to go. You got to go. Is he going to go piss dogs? I don't know. Probably not.
Honestly, I would have considered piss dogs.
Would you?
I forget what he was wearing. Well, actually, no, I remember vividly what he was wearing. He was wearing one of those upside down lettering hats that many that was a tough start. Tough scene there, but I'm conjuring up images now in my head, and I think he wore black pants for most of the week, which are great for piss dogs.
Sure.
Just let it rip. No one's the wiser. You wouldn't want to do that in white pants or even light colored pants, but black, Who's gonna know?
Okay, notice for next time.
I don't know if he's a fireballs guy. I mean, we see some of the fits Sergio has. It just the yellow bleeds right into the whole color scheme. No one's the wiser. So, Ballester, Race Creek,
that was the other one.
And then you had Nick Dunlap on here, which I thought was
that's
cool
the other one. I think that people will kind of always refer back to with his career. I think it's kind of going to be his low point in his career. You would imagine, when you shoot, was it 90? You shoot 90?
Yeah.
I tell you what, that's tough on the grand world stage of the Masters, and especially for a player that we all know how good he is. I mean, I watched the kid play since he was a kid, so it's I hated to see it, but I also know that it's never going to stop him from getting to where he's eventually going to get to.
Well, he goes 90-71, and the extra context of that story was he goes and buys or has his agent go buy a bag of balls, and he's staying at some house in the area and just near the woods, and just rips balls into the woods that night to kind of let it all out.
That's how he is.
It's amazing.
He's just so dedicated to his craft, and I know he's going to get through whatever it is. It started kind of around that time with the stuff off the tee. Once he gets that cleaned up, the rest of the game's so good. So that would probably be something that I think we'll just kind of hang on to in our heads of, okay, when next time Nick Dunlap wins, we can refer back to that Thursday round at Augusta National.
Well, now the crazy thing about that is you think of all the different ways you can be in the spotlight, with a part of your game at a professional level malfunctioning. And the one that feels the most glaring and obvious is putting. We've talked about that with Scotty and others the last couple of years, but really I can't think of anything scarier as a pro golfer than not being able to know where it's going off the tee. Like, that is a much more severe situation than not being able to get in the hole, right? I mean, because you're just, every single hole you're playing from behind.
Do you want to talk to a guy that knows? Because do you want to?
It's supposed to be a tee up for you.
Okay. I didn't know. A tee up. Yeah. I can provide a little insight here if you'd like me to, or you could just ponder. Either or.
I mean, I'd say, well, I've seen it. I've also seen what happens after it, and that part's the best part of it. I've seen some amazing escape shots.
It's fun for YouTube. It's not fun for making a living.
That's why we're in the YouTube game now, which is a great place to be. I think you have on here like some notes about Rory, which I loved. Like, just people forget Rory started out Saturday with 6 straight threes. I mean,
I forgot. Didn't you forget?
I was sitting in the press building, which is like, by the way, if we're talking about things we love, now that we're big J journalists, we're emerging on the golf scene as big J journalists. Like, that press building is just unbelievable, second to none. It's like, stadium seating back to front with this beautiful view of the range, and the murmurs, like just the outright gasps as we're watching every new score fall on his card as he's making threes. That was a pretty electric day.
6 straight threes. So that would all right. So that would mean he's 500 through 6. Is that right?
Yeah.
What a start.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
What a start.
Stuff. And then had trouble playing, let's see, 4 doubles that week, 2 on the first day.
Yes, because he was 4 under and then got to 15 and chipped it in the water from behind the green. And then on 17, got out of position, ended up actually hit it over the he ended up having like a 30-footer for par to a back left pin, blew it by, and then missed the comebacker putt.
And was it the double on Sunday was 13, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, double on 13, and then like maybe the greatest 7-iron of all time on 15. That was unbelievable. And then the other shot I put on here, we're talking about memorable shots, is one of the most memorable rounds I've ever walked to watch was going out there and walking the front with Jackson and Brian, and the way we kind of navigated these massive crowds following Rory and Bryson around that final group was getting on the left side of 7 about halfway up that hill. So that recovery shot, he kind of cut around the trees back into that green on 7, went right over our heads. One of the coolest shots I've ever seen.
I mean, just think about that shot on the 7th hole, and then you go all the way until, he's just playing. Yeah. Gosh, he's playing good golf, and then that stuff happens at 13. And then the shots he hits down at like 15, of course, is going to be an all-time like heroic shot. That's 7-iron. But then even the pin they used at 16, I think we'll forget about because we're so used to the Sunday hole location at 16 being down to the left. But this year it was on top, celebrating, I believe, 50-year anniversary, or no, it can't be 50-year anniversary of Jack Nicklaus. When that can't be right. It was
of 86 or what do you?
Yeah, it was like 86 is what they were celebrating, the putt that he made up the hill. Okay. And they used that whole location to celebrate that. Maybe it can't be 20. No, it would have been 25 years. Somewhere the math
pod. Yeah.
But like the bottom of the cup had something too, I think, if I recall. No, that was the players that had the better than most thing on the cup. Anyways, but I think we'll forget about the iron shot that he hit into the 16th, which was really, really good. He didn't make birdie, but it was a fantastic shot, a shot in which he couldn't hit prior years. Surely, yeah. I mean, of course, Rory McIlroy can hit whatever shot he wants. I'm just saying, under pressure in that type of moment, probably would have struggled with it in other years. And then 17, of course, that 8-iron, and then 18 in the playoff, all of that.
Well, I mean, and I just went back to look at his card, and I'd already forgotten that we were there on one, getting ready for the showdown.
Was it a bogey or a double?
Doubles one.
Doubles
and
That's right.
and we were thinking at that point Bryson fell off the pace pretty quickly, but we thought it was going to be a Rory Bryson duel. And just watching him kind of make a mess that first hole. But yeah, birdie on 17, and then to miss the putt he misses on 18, and then have something similar in the playoff.
Well, remember, he's in the middle of the fairway and then hits it into the right bunker with a sand wedge or gap wedge.
But still has like a makeable, not a gimme for 4, but he has like
a 4 or 5 footer.
It's a 4 or 5 footer, and then he has something similar in the playoff and makes it. And just to the release there was
hitting. He had like the same number on 18, but there's 2 drives he hit. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen somebody have like 120 yards at 18, at least not on back-to-back drives.
Yeah, to take on that angle and the way that he did back to back, just so nervy. If you lose that a little bit, it's just you could throw the golf tournament away. And
yeah.
This is why I love we're doing this exercise, because as we're talking about it, and obviously it wasn't at the Open, but being there for those 3 majors, you're just putting yourself back in those moments and remembering how thrilling it was to watch him go to work in the way that he did. Incredible week. The last one that on here that I think is worth kind of recapping is just you really observed the way the course maybe not played dramatically different, but the Hurricane Helene, just certain trees that were gone.
Totally.
Now that you're away from it from a few months, I mean, do you think Augusta National does anything to kind of recreate certain shots, or do you think you like the way it laid out?
Oh, it was fine. It was much more of just when you got down to Amen Corner and just how you could see Augusta Country Club over the years, that it'll eventually get back to probably what it used to look like. Yeah. I feel like vegetation always has a way of kind of getting back to where it was.
That's said with agronomic authority. Vegetation.
Well, it just does. Life, I don't understand it.
Finds
but it
a way.
Does.
It's very Jurassic Park of you. I think that's nice to go along here on the Masters. I'm not going to short other majors, but the PGA. Let's head to the PGA next. Quail Hollow. Prior to the season, you picked Rory there, which ended up being my one and done pick that week. I picked Justin Thomas. Scotty Scheffler, of course, wins.
That was my one and done pick.
That was your one and done pick. So you did cash that week. I'd love to hear about your favorite shots. And it was just a weird week of storylines, but I'll always remember PGA America was great to kind of set us up right there on the left side of 18. And our last on-site journal that week, you and Jackson and I standing in that sort of hospitality area and watching him with the wind swirling. We're looking at all these different flags behind the 18 grandstand going in different directions, and just hits a perfect approach and then makes maybe like a 8 or 10 footer for birdie on Saturday. And it just really felt like he's in command. He's going to go out and win this major here. What do you kind of run through your set of notes for that week in Charlotte?
Well, I would say just from a golf tournament standpoint of like what happened, if you just need a memory refresher, I think the one shot that comes into my head, the one that I think could have changed the outcome of the entire golf tournament, was on the 13th hole of the par 3. John Rahm has that 25 to 30 footer left to right putt. You know how many big left to right putts he's made in his career. And this putt somehow doesn't fall with gravity and misses on the high side. And if that putt goes in, I think he probably walks to the 14th tee with potentially a one-shot lead at that time. But instead walks there, the 14th tee, the drivable hole, hits it into that bunker in a very doable, I wouldn't say simple up and down, nothing's simple at a major championship, but a doable up and down, and hits a kind of a lousy bunker shot, misses the putt, makes par, goes to 15 to par 5, hits a good shot, ends up over the green, and doesn't, blows it by, misses a comeback or makes par. Meanwhile, Scotty Scheffler, terrible from Scotty Scheffler standards on the front nine with the golf swing, has the left miss, shows up to the 10th tee after Ted Scott says, "Hey, dude, you should just aim more right." Next thing you know, whoosh, and then he just kept going and going. But the biggest comparison, I guess I should say, would be that Scotty Scheffler, when he got to 14 and 15, basically was in exactly the same spots that John Rahm was around the green. He was in that bunker at 14. He was behind the green at 15. Scotty Scheffler gets both of them up and down. Yeah. John Rahm then gets to 16, 17, 18, has to go on the offensive, and then the Green Mile decided to attack.
I am kind of bummed. It's not on the Rahm note. Like, I just felt like hearing him that week feel less defeated than he has at past majors, and really feeling like he liked being back on the hunt, and that was going to kind of push him towards playing better in the last 2 majors of the year. And just was looking back to see where he ended up at the Open. T34 finishes at 3 under. Not a terrible result, but it's almost like it was not exactly the reverse of 2024, where it was sort of a disastrous major season for the first 3 with Rahm. Had to withdraw from the U.S. Open, but then has this sort of nice finish at Troon to kind of take him into this season, where the kind of air went out of his sails a little bit. Oakmont, difficult, of course, for everyone, and I believe it was a top 10, maybe even top 7 there at Oakmont. But I just felt like this major was gonna really push Rahm to contention, maybe even winning one of the last 2 of the year, and we didn't get him as close as we maybe would have liked to see him back at that elite form prior to leaving for Live.
I would say that the one good thing that John Rahm has going for him is that it is a Ryder Cup year. You know, if it wasn't a Ryder Cup year, you know, we literally would go from now until April. You know, we would, you know, look at to see how he played, but we're not talking about and analyzing his golf game like we are, you know, during the major season, because we get to see him play on light golf courses. So it's nice that we get to see him one more go around at the Ryder Cup, because then we just have another way to judge to see how John Rahm, you know, plays at the highest level. No, we know that he can. So it's just another at bat for John coming up.
And this was also the extended kind of not drop off's not fair, but just we thought Rory he was going to be freed up prior, you know, after this Grand Slam win, and now it was a perfect setup for him at Quail this week. You know, long soft course. We had the driver failing, leaked kind of in a not so great way, and just the sort of Cold War with the press in the months that followed, and not really enjoying his time at Oakmont. And it was nice to see him crescendo back up at Port Rush, you know, of course, playing a home game there. But this was the beginning of this really kind of odd stretch for Rory, when we felt like it was going to be, this whole year was going to be a celebration of him completing the career Grand Slam. Yeah,
you're totally right. And you know, nothing more to add other than what you mentioned, but definitely this was kind of the beginning of it. The other thing too, I kind of mentioned the Green Mile with Rahm, but we didn't really get the full experience on Sunday like we had gotten in 2014 with the amazing shot that JT hit on 17. And so that was a bit of a disappointment, because when you looked at all of the stats and stuff for the week, 16, 17, 18 were the hardest holes in the golf course. But once Scotty had broken away from the pack, I mean, he's just going to – that is just a dramaless finish for everybody, because guess what? Scotty's not going to screw that up.
You said this in our last show, and it's right. It's like we're trying to think back at all Scotty's major wins, and none of them had a ton of drama in them. It's like when he gets a lead and I don't know, like Bryson's clubbing decisions towards the end at Quail I just didn't understand, both Saturday and Sunday. Just made
I don't remember Bryson.
He tried to hammer like an 8-iron into 17, and it didn't make any sense given the wind direction.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He hit it. This was kind of the iron game at Augusta was already a bit of a problem, and then it kind of showed itself up again a little bit at Quail.
I'm trying to remember if he made the switch, because he was using like those Avodas, and then he had like the new LA Golf like BD prototypes that I guess better nailed the roll bulge, but then he went back to the Avoda subsequently. But it was like this was going to be the secret weapon, and it was going to help him with some of this right to left shot shape. But I think you said that week where it just didn't he wasn't playing the proper shot into some of the wins we saw at Quail that week. You know, just, he was insistent on just turning the ball over and over again. And that's something that I think we still have somewhat of a question for Bryson about that part of his game, unless he's allowed to play Polara golf balls on tour next year, which, you know, I got my dozen, and I'm going to go out and field test those in the name of investigative journalism for this show. But yeah, I mean, I think for Bryson, it's still kind of a, you know, he's now going to kind of go back in his lab. Of course, he's going to play in the Ryder Cup. Keegan said he's on the team, but this offseason of, you know, messing around, tinkering for Bryson, I'm really excited to see what new gear he has going into the next year that he thinks is going to be the silver bullet.
Yeah, interesting. The only thing you have to ask yourself is this new golf ball that he might play, or this Polaris that's non-conforming. How would it do with a mud ball? A mud ball.
Mud balls were the story of the week that week at Quail. A deluge of rain. It's been a really weird
so
rainy
much
season.
Rain. Do you remember? They got like 5 inches of rain on, was it the Wednesday before, the Tuesday before, and somehow they didn't play it up on Thursday. Like they played it down.
I think that connects to me with, you know, the ongoing debate about Quail Hollow. What sort of a major venue is it? You know, players love it. You know, the press and media seems to not like it so much, and just connecting with, you know, this is a place that has all this drainage and sub air. Like, how should we kind of decide on how we're going to play the ball up or down at a major versus what's obviously a problem with conditions? And are we really separating the best golfers? So I don't know what other thoughts you have on that topic. It was interesting in that sense that week.
Well, my honorable mention too, that I must bring up now that we talk about Quail Hollow as a venue, you have to remember the Hunter Mahan quote when he said that Quail Hollow is like a Kardashian, just without a soul. It's something without a soul is what he said.
Like, I think the gist was like, looks great, but has no soul to it. And I was like, I don't know if I would have made that comp, Hunter, but
every single person from Charlotte had picket fences with Hunter Mahan's face on it. They were ready for blood.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it that week, and I kind of feel the same of, you know, if the guys who are playing the tournament are telling you they enjoy playing this place, and it is, and that's why I guess there was this weird conflict of like, this place separates good players from bad players, except when you're making us all play mud balls. You know, it was like you're almost defeated the purpose of the course in a way, you know, but the thing they're telling you they like about it, now you're throwing in this weird wrinkle that makes it weird. Like, if anything, I feel like all the people who critique Quail Hollow should have loved the mud ball situation because there was a quirkiness about it that the course normally does not have.
Yeah, totally. And I think heading into the week, it's coming back to me now. We said that only like 4 guys could win the golf tournament. Mm-hmm. We were pretty aggressive in kind of who we said could win this place at this place because of the length of the golf course. And I think that's when the venue conversation started to get ramped up from our end. Is that do we like venues that only reward length, or do we like shot shape and hitting it straight to be much more of a factor? So I think that was another thing kind of mentioned. But for me, by the end of the week, or beginning of the Thursday, I should say, I was kind of over the whole Quail Hollow debate conversation. It was kind of annoying heading into it because it when you got on site, you're like, oh, what's wrong with this place?
Right. And I think it's like at certain points, like the golf course is the golf course. Like, I don't really want to hear about this all week long. I just want to focus on the tournament being played. Unless
somebody's winning a major.
Yeah, someone's winning a major. And then this, of course, and on the way out here with this kicked off the string of different Wyndham Clark events. You know, this Wyndham Clark had an interesting sort of item at the final 3 majors of the year in different ways, and this was the driver throw untimely of sorts because he is a T-Mobile endorsed athlete and threw it right in that T-Mobile sign, and that was it was tough there for Wyndham. So that's our PGA Championship recap.
Let's see if I got anything else. I got Scotty screaming F yeah after he won the golf tournament. That was hey, I mean, when we were looking for a little bit more of a energy and a spunk from the guy and just to be less boring, that competitive just juice came out on the winning putt, and when he had won by 5, or that was pretty sick.
This is file this under everyone who's complaining about Scotty saying that majors aren't fulfilling. It's like, go run that tape back. All right. I think you maybe took him a little bit out of context. All right. I'm sure he loves and cares winning these
He probably
things.
accidentally said it. And I feel for a guy who accidentally says the F word. Yeah.
That's right. That's going to be part of our Open Championship recap. We live all the highs and lows of that tournament. Let's head next to Oakmont, the U.S. Open, which, it's so funny in looking at all these and the victors, and obviously Rory, the storyline at the Masters is probably the best storyline of the week. But even with the winner that people don't classify as, a name brand, and we want to see, I think I had the most fun that week of just watching how difficult that course was and seeing a course for the first time. And then maybe it was just how delighted I was to be in the city of Pittsburgh and discovering this place I'd never been before that was just a great hang across the board. But heading into that week, heading into the year, you had Scotty winning this U.S. Open. I had Xander winning. The winner, of course, was JJ Spawn. Came out of the second to last group, I want to say, second to last, third to last group, because you were on that group. And the two iconic moments, of course, is 17 and 18. The drive he hits on 17, unbelievable. And then that bomb he hits on 18 for birdie to finish as the only player in the tournament under par. Let's start with just you recollecting that day as the walker in JJ's group.
Okay, so Sunday, my recollection. I just was thinking, oh man, my group got off to such a bad start. And in a day in which I felt that I was going to be a part of, just a really, really fun Sunday at Oakmont, all of a sudden, JJ Spawn is 5 over through 6 holes. Victor Hovland's not doing much better. He was maybe half of that through 6 holes, but hit a nice shot, I think, into the 5th hole to kind of get him back, settled down. But I'm just, JJ was, we had stopped showing his shots on about the 7th hole, and we maybe showed one on 8, but we didn't show any of his stuff on 7. And, at that point, I'm just kind of keen in on Victor at this point until JJ gets it back going again. And he's not going to get it back going again on the 8th or 9th hole. But at that point, when we got to 8, that's when the rain started coming down, and we get to 9T, and they blow the horn. So we go in, and by the way, going into the day,
I completely forgotten about the rain delay until you just said that.
He's not winning this golf tournament if it went for the rain delay.
I completely forgotten about that until now. Wow. And that was rain shorts. That was the highlight of the week for me.
Yeah. Rain shorts. Yeah. So I don't know if he went inside and drank Michael Jordan's secret, juice, from Space Jam. Michael, is it Michael's Secret Stuff? Is that what it was called?
Michael's Secret Stuff. Yeah.
I don't know what he drank, but I don't know if he had a beer or something to settle him down. But I think you don't get many timeouts in the game of golf, and that was the best timeout ever called for JJ Spawn, because he came out and parred the 9th hole and then played a 3 under par back 9 with catching breaks in certain spots. And then also, holing obviously some of the most iconic putts we've ever seen in the US Open, the 64 footer on the 18th hole, but also making bombs at 12 and 14.
Yeah. A very deserving winner. And I thought that was, as we were sitting on the couch in that Airbnb and north side of Pittsburgh, wherever it was, just almost kicking ourselves for not looking at the list of potential contenders and saying, this guy could fit the profile. He does everything that this golf course calls for. And we overlooked him. So, really earned his due. Of course, there was
the drive at 17 too, by the way.
If you're listening when I introduced this thing, I mentioned that.
Gotcha.
But
sorry,
no,
I didn't. We kind of worked our way up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was that was unbelievable, and your breakdown of that you did on that show, recapping it, and then subsequently on our pages was just so cool. Just the needle he had to thread, and the other players that tried to, I'm thinking Bobby Mack coming up just short, Tyrrell Hatton, and just couldn't get it done. That is also. Kudos to JJ for pulling that off. Felt bad for that final group, the Adam Scott, Sam Burns group, the whole Sam Burns. And I don't know, have you seen this on TikTok where They have like recreations of certain, things. And it's like this thing, 99.7% accuracy. Right. And there was like a whole bunch of them on TikTok in the weeks coming where it was like people who had jumped into their swimming pools in full golf clothes with their gloves. And Sam Burns out there. I love that trend so much.
There's
also
literally
really
a guy
terrible for Sam.
There was a guy in the bottom of the pool and the golf ball is on the ground. He's trying to hit it. And then he goes up and he says, "Can I call for a ruling?" And the guy dives into the pool. And then the guy's down there. He's like doing this. And he said, no, you don't get a drop. Gosh, it was so good. And I have to imagine Sam was laughing at those because what can you do? I mean, it was terrible rulings. And sure, the USGA could probably say, well, by the letter of the law, that's not relief. Well, let's just use better judgment in this. I mean, when you look at the USGA rule book, it's a big book and it has a lot of different things that are changed over the years. There's A, B, C's, I'm sure, that have, evolved, right? I'm sure it started as a much smaller rule book and there's been items that have been added over the years. And now you're to the point with a lot of different stuff with the rules of golf that I'd love to see the PGA Tour adapt their own rule system because there's too often things that I feel like the USGA and the PGA Tour have different set of rules that they govern by that the PGA Tour has to go by because they are going by the USGA and the R&A's rules. But in a situation like this, when it comes down to right and wrong, I think it I'm not going to say it determined the U.S. Open, but it definitely played a factor, which you don't want. You don't want to happen. You want it to be as fair of a playing field as possible. And I'm for chaos at U.S. Opens. I'm for crazy things happen there and unfair things happening. But that one just seemed like it maybe crossed the line a little bit because I can tell you firsthand, I walked those fairways. I know what the splash of every single step felt like. And I was walking in a puddle every single step I took.
Oh, look what happened to JJ Spawn with the flag stick and the rake. I mean, those are just things that are out of your control and you have to deal with and make it through if you're going to win a U.S. Open. But those are also parts of the game that, it's just, it's a hard luck thing. Whereas like hitting the ball.
I was like, flag stick, what are you talking about? He hit a flag stick on the second hole.
Yeah.
People forget.
People forget those are different flag sticks, as you noted on our recap show. I think it's in terms of the PGA Tour having different rules, we could be headed for that with the whole rollback situation in a couple of years here. But I do think it's just the rules of golf are so interesting because it's the spirit with which they were originally created is a sort of gentleman's game, and you're not going to try to create advantages. But of course, if you're playing for millions and millions of dollars, you are going to know the rules and try to use them to your advantage when you can. When we see that, on a weekly basis with TIO relief and, the shot link towers and all sorts of things like that. So then there becomes a sort of rigidity around around certain rules where it's like, no, you can't take a ball out of a divot or, if we ride it where, there's water in your stance and not around your ball, you can't take relief. And it's all these things where if you could apply common sense and the sort of, this sort of gentlemanly approach to the game of golf, that years and years ago when it was created made sense, that would make sense. But, it's just times are different and the way that the rules are applied and kind of tested by players is different. And it's a shame we end up like things like that for Sam Burns. And then on Adam's side, had nothing to do with the rules, but just I remember you talking about and hearing on the broadcast, just Bones coming on saying, this is one of the worst lives I've seen all week. And the next, I was like, this is somehow worse than the last live I just saw for Adam Scott. And I mean, that was one like I was rooting for Adam. I really thought he would have been an amazing champion at Oakmont. But that's the game of golf. That's how U.S. Opens go.
Yeah, and Victor Hovland, he definitely could have won that golf tournament if it wasn't for his driver on some of those key holes. 15th hole was one of them where he didn't hit the fairway the entire week at 15. And then he just had that right miss that kept on giving him an issue. And I think if he was a little bit more dialed in with the driver, that he could have easily won that golf tournament too.
Yeah. And that we kind of run through that four set of contenders that came out of those last two groups. We of course had Bobby Mack who darn near wins the thing or could have been a contention to the thing.
Cam Young finished like top. He
Yeah.
finished like top 5 too. Cam Young, and he wasn't even a part of it either. So Bobby Mack, the clapping after he made the putt, that was great. I would say the only other thing to mention is Scotty, Rory, and Bryson. Those are obviously been the 3 best players, and all 3 of them struggled off the tee, struggled finding fairways, and Oakmont did what it did best, which is first and foremost, you got to be able to find the short grass. And if you don't, you're going to be penalized. All 3 were penalized the first couple days. Bryson, I don't think made the cut, did he? Bryson missed the cut.
Bryson missed the cut.
Yep, he missed the cut. Rory,
after all the hoopla about how straight he was driving it in the week leading up, and that was like, I felt like that was the last gasp of Rory's frustration tour. It was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm exhaling. Let me get overseas and
he had
just
a good
spend
Sunday,
some time.
but he had a good Sunday.
Yeah.
That was the only good thing, was that he actually got better on the weekend, even though mentally he didn't quite have the fight because he wasn't a part of the storyline, but he did hit it better over the weekend. And then Scotty, it was just too little too late, because he almost was close enough if he had the putter going on the weekend, but he didn't quite get the putts to go in. But he was he just set himself up too far back with just some rough days. Because remember, he was like yelling at Randy on the range after the first couple of days.
And then they had that whole, the next day where like Ted Scott and Randy were like, doing like sort of a skit, which was, the real dad humor on the topic of Father's Day weekend. That was some real dad humor.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
Yeah. That was that was also this. I got to get 2 sicko gear tinker things in the mix here. I love so much that Scotty has his training aid, that this thing he stands up is 2 Ventus shafts. Like, the guy's got like $1,000 training aid sitting right there that I just wish I could go out and just like grab one of those Ventuses and like take it home, put it in my bag. And also tough year for new tech for the manufacturer that Rory and Scotty both use. As I was looking back at the what's in the bag for all the major winners this year, and we'll just say the 2024 model was a lot better. It seems was still in the bag for those guys. So maybe
you're the tech guy.
I'm the tech guy. I'm the gear guy. I found that quite interesting, and we'll see what sort of updates we get in 26. And then, of course, the last note here, the second stage of the 3-act play for Wyndham Clark, the destruction of the lockers, and then subsequently the ban from Oakmont premises. Although he's
came out open week though, so the picture did come out on. Yeah. That happened on Friday after the missed cut, and then I saw the picture on, I think, Saturday or Sunday on the first tee. Somebody showed it to me.
We can head now to the 4th major of the year, which we could probably keep a little bit shorter on this one because we've just recapped this at full length. We just watched this Open Championship. At the beginning of the year, you had Tyrrell Hatton winning this. I had Victor Hovland. Scotty Scheffler, of course, wins. So if you're looking at our full year, like our bingo cards, like you had 2 of the 4 major winners. I had 1 of 4. We just didn't plug them into the right slots necessarily, but that's worth something. I thought in terms of like memorable shots, just as soon as I watched Scotty his approach shot at 1 on Sunday, I sent the Vince Carter it's over gif in the group because it was. And then on Saturday, I felt like that up and down from like the side of the hill on 11, just in the trash after yanking a 150-yard approach shot, should have been easy, and getting that down to the right spot to make like an 8 to 10 footer to save par, summed up the entire week for Scotty Scheffler and why he did such a brilliant job of, even like 7-shot lead makes it double, not advancing and have a fairway bunker on Sunday, doesn't matter because you've done everything else right the entire week.
I would say for me that it's all so fresh, so I'll just kind of rip through it. Yeah. But it was good to see that Scotty Scheffler made his first strategic error of his career on the 8th hole, trying to hit it out of that fairway bunker with a 7-shot lead. But I do appreciate the fact that he was trying to win by 15 and going for it. So that would be the one note I would have there. Open Championship, sneaky making its way into my favorite major until we just have this too long of a gap until April to where eventually that first major, like Christmas morning, hits. I'm like, this is always going to be it. But right now they're neck and neck. So Shane Lowry penalty, that's going to be something that I think as time goes on, we'll kind of forget about. But the putt I'll never forget about is Rory's putt at 12 on Saturday. The roars around Portrush on Saturday were just insane. I'm never going to forget that Saturday. It'll probably be my favorite Saturday I ever work. And then the scoop we got on the golf ball thing with Bryson was hilarious. And Haotong Li being a certified striper. And then the last one I have is that Scotty's shots that he hit on 16 all week were sent from the heavens. And it started on Thursday where he was 1 under going into the 16th hole, hits a 4-iron. Actually, maybe it would have been a 5-iron. It was a 5-iron to 3 feet, birdie 17, shoots 3 under, he's 1 back, and the golf tournament's over.
Yeah. I'll say honestly, of the entire week, like I know Scotty's the biggest winner, but very, very close second, Haotong Li. I think Haotong Li made a lot of fans, myself included, just watching him flush the golf ball.
You know he's in a feature group this week.
Is he really? Yeah. I can't wait. I'm all about Haotong Li. He has seems like he had a good sense of humor. He's one of those guys that when he misses putts, he does the thumbs up. It's a really bad miss. I huge Haotong Li fan.
He gets onto himself too. He's very, very high energy, high emotional player. He was just yelling at himself running on 18 after hitting the bunker on Saturday off the tee. It's just yelling at us, Haotong, you idiot. And I was just like, yeah, I get that, man.
That's so good. Well, okay, we are going to start to shift towards 26. I know we still have a few things to kind of clean up of just the major year at large, but as we move to 26, this, of course, is the 2026 Look Ahead, brought to you by our friends at AHEAD. AHEAD is a strategic partner for enterprise clients, helping them navigate the path toward digital transformation, much like an expert caddy, reading the course ahead and providing the winning combination of technology and execution. You can learn more at AHEAD.com. So as we kind of shift in that direction, Smylie, just big picture, your standouts from 25 of the major season at large, combining all the performances together.
Well, I would say that if you look at, the players that made all of the cuts, I think there was like 12 players that did. But of course, Scotty Scheffler had cumulative was 32 under. The next best was 11 under with Rory McIlroy. Clearly those two had the best 2 major seasons between those two guys. And then Bryson would be the third. He had,
even though he missed the cut in Oakmont.
Yeah, crazy. But he battled back to have that top 10 at the Open. So you have 2 top 5s and then that top 10 that came from the Open. So I would say that, of course, like Scotty's a no-brainer. Rory had a very exciting, uneventful roller coaster major season that was exactly kind of what Rory is. It's bizarre how fun he is to watch play golf. But the one I wanted to talk about, which is kind of like sneaky, was Andrew Schauffele.
Yes,
I'm sitting here looking at his results, and if I told you this player finished 8th, 28th, 12th, and 8th, you would say, okay, I mean, it's not that bad of a major season. He's really close. Like if I would have told you this was a top player, but I think we've just coming off of a 2 major win season from Xander. I think we were expecting him to win maybe 1 this year to keep that tally rolling. So a disappointing major season, but like when you look at it from just a result standpoint, not that bad. But I think it's the lack of getting in contention is what comes to my brain because none of them felt like he was a part of the storyline.
See, that's interesting because I almost look at this in a different way, and this is all hypothetical, but with Xander, it's like if we look at that and it's yet another year where he hasn't won a major, it's the same sort of chatter of like he can't get it done, he can't do it at the big events, he gets close. But now that he's won the 2, I felt like having won the 2 majors last year, knowing what he was capable of, just find that new level, and then that rib injury, which is obviously a huge integral piece of the musculature that one needs to swing a golf club, and then you're jumping back in the schedule in the middle of a really tough part of the Florida swing, working into the biggest events of the year.
Yeah.
Like for him to play like he did, and then you can tell how the rust of having not played those first few months detracted from parts of his game that were so rock solid for a long time, namely the putting. The fact that he did what he did, without a proper kind of working into his playing schedule, I felt like was a pretty impressive year for him. So, I don't, there might still be people critiquing the fact that he didn't win another major this year. But for me, I feel like, I wonder even if we're going to kind of get this delayed peak where he's going to be one of the top performers at the Ryder Cup now that he's played his way into consistent shape. His last 2 major finishes of the year.
It's interesting take.
8th,
Definitely interesting take. I don't think he would call it an impressive year, but I would say that it's definitely something that, when we're being critical of his year, that I think you give him a little grace, of course, with his injury, but also that like, hey, it wasn't that bad. I know I said he didn't really get in contention. He was somewhat in the storyline at the Open. He definitely was a part of it. Didn't quite get the putter going. Didn't make enough putts down on the weekend, but
he would have been. I mean, he would have been in the mix in the B flight at Port Rush.
Totally, yeah.
The A flight was one guy just playing on a different planet, and then the B flight would have been really interesting.
That's
so,
right. The other player too that had a great major season, who started the year at 34th in the official world golf ranking, Harris English. He kind of backdoored himself into a T2 at the PGA Championship. Of course, played really well at the Open, finishing second place. So he had 2 runner-up finishes in the major championships, which is incredible.
Amazing.
And then also a 12th at the Masters. Didn't really do anything at the U.S. Open at 59th, but he's a player that has played his way. He's 8th in the world now, which is awesome. He already has a win this year at the Farmers. So Harris English is the player who had the best major season of a player who was not that wasn't a player that we would have ever brought up at the beginning of this major season. So he was the standout for sure.
I feel like in the same vein as JJ Spawn, like hand up, like
JJ. Sorry, pardon me.
Well,
JJ would be the other guy.
Well, but I just feel like hand up, like I did not talk about Harris English enough this year, and then you go back and I was looking at these leaderboards for this show, and I was like, holy smokes, like 2 runner-ups and majors plus the win at Torrey. I think, again, as we're talking about kind of Xander playing, like I think Harris is not going to be one of these guys that is kind of depth on this Ryder Cup team. Like I expect him to really be a key player for this American team at Bethpage, the way he's playing this year. So big kudos to Harris English. Now we have some guys that didn't play as well at these big events. We could pick from any of these. Like I want to start with a guy that like, I want this guy to figure it out so badly because I had such high hopes for him coming into this year. I don't know what to make of where Ludwig Oberg is right now. It's just strange to me that the inconsistency in form, and to me this is very anecdotal, but just it feels like a lot of times I'm watching him in golf tournaments where he's in and around the lead or has a chance at working his way into contention. It's like he's lacking the thing that Scotty did such a good job of this last week at Port Rush, which is keeping the big numbers off the card and taking triples and doubles away. And
so you're saying he has strokes gained bogey at the wrong time? Problem? Like he's very low in that category. Strokes, he's just wrong place, wrong time.
Bogey, exactly. Like it was, I'm trying to think, it was at the Scottish, was not at a major, but it was like he was right in and around it. And I was sensitive to this because he was my pick that week, but makes that triple on 12 and just he's pretty much out of the pace the rest of the week. You got
that strokes gained bogey at the wrong time, but then you also have the momentum meter over here. The momentum putt that you got to hit, or the momentum shot that you got to pull off. And you don't, whether it's making a birdie on a par 5 or the 8-footer for par that you got to make. So that meter's low. So we got this meter that's low over here, and then we got bogey at the wrong time over here. But we also have a lot of other really good stuff, but just maybe not quite to the level that we expected. Because I want to give quickly I wanted you to comment one more time on him. Players miscut for Ludwig. He finished 7th at the Masters, his best finish. And then he also finished 23rd at the Open, but he had miscuts at the PGA and also the U.S. Open.
So what did you see this year from Ludwig that you feel like I'd be working on this, or this was uncharacteristic, like for a guy that we just had the highest hopes for coming off of the way he played in 24?
Well, I actually think that he got off to a good start this year, and I think the illness that he got during that entire West Coast swing, he was down and out for quite some time, and I think it really held him back from the momentum that he had from winning the Genesis, which was a kind of a backdoor win in the way to which he won, but he still won the golf tournament. He hit some great shots in a signature event. So I think the illness kind of screwed him up a little bit, and then also I think he got into some swing issues throughout the year that he just wasn't able, could kind of fix quite as easily as he has in the past, and that's understandable. And it's to win golf tournaments at this level, you got to be able to fix stuff on the fly. And I don't think he was able to do that quite as well this year.
Well, or even in this, I think connects to where the observation about bogey or double bogey or triple bogey avoidance. It's like the thing we all loved about Ludwig bursting onto the scene is he had and has the perfect golf swing. When it's firing on all cylinders, it's the modern move. There is no waste in that swing. It's beautiful. It's compact. It's efficient. But if you get off track there, it's like, how are we finding a way to get the ball in the hole and scrape a score out of a day where we don't have it? And that's what I think we're maybe lacking a little bit from him right now. And the hope is that, with time and experience, he can find that so that he has both of those attributes and can win more golf tournaments.
Totally. We'll see. The talent's undeniable.
Off the charts. Maybe the most talented guy on tour.
The other two players are, and these are the three players we're bringing up, Ludwig, JT, and Seb, are all top 10 players in the world. And I didn't realize JT is up to fourth in the world. Yeah. That was something that took me by surprise. But I'm going to go through his results in big events. Players 33rd. 36th at the Masters, miscut at the PGA, miscut at the US Open, 34th at the Open. So the best that he had three in his made cuts in big events this year. He basically finished between 33rd and 36th. Yeah. For the standard that he has in his game, that's unacceptable to him. He knows that. Everybody else knows that. The standard that we hold him to for being such a high level player, we know what he's capable of. I mean, the guy had 4 top 3s this year and 7 top 10s. Of course, a big win in Hilton Head, and really a comeback year that was one that we felt was coming for a very long time, just the way he had been trending. But I think we felt like it was going to translate to the big events, and it just, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to drive the ball quite as good at these big events like other times. So he's just got to find more fairways, I feel like, and the iron game will kind of wake back up a little bit, because I think he's had to put too much stress on his iron game at times because he's just not in the fairway as much. I loved him at the Open Championship this year, putting in the mini driver, just trying to find more fairways. I think it was an effective style. So I think for him, just continuing to find ways to improve, finding more fairways. And then Sepp, he's a guy that I feel like, Charlie, we kind of felt like he was going to make a big jump in the majors this year, but he missed the cut at the Players. He finished he finished 14th at the Players, and then missed the next 3 cuts. So he missed the cut at the Masters, the PGA, the US Open, and then finished 52nd at the Open. So a year in which he's won twice 4 top 5s. Like when we talk about Sepp and JT, I think for 2 guys that have had really, really good years, when you go look at the FedEx Cup, I would say had very disappointing big event years.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting on Sepp. Like, it's just he's been a force on the PGA Tour, and that's reflected by the FedEx Cup standings, 3rd in the FedEx Cup standings, and is going to be right there contending for Tour Championship and all that, and then we'll of course be on that Ryder Cup team on the European side. But I wonder about Sepp and Ludwig as members of that European team of just. You're looking at a year of results that aren't up to your standard in the high leverage events. You're going to the final high leverage event of the year. Like, what sort of mentality you're showing up with? I'm not doubting them. I just wonder how they're processing that and working through that. For JT, it looks like the thing that I felt like was a big positive was he doesn't seem like he's wearing it as much as he has in past years.
Definitely.
Now, I know that we're coming from, there's some really low moments in majors in previous years, and you can understand why that would wear harder on you because you're in this sort of spotlight and you can't escape it, and it's hard. But I really felt like he had a great attitude this year, better than maybe I've ever seen. And
I couldn't agree more. That's a good point.
I thought that was great. And maybe that's part of just, again, where we started this whole thing, like fatherhood, just kind of lighten you up a little bit. You have the set of priorities at home that kind of aligns, the high and low you need to feel at the golf course. But I really felt like that was a key shift in his demeanor. And I think that's huge. I mean, I think that's going to lead to better golf, even if you didn't get the results you wanted in majors this year.
Yeah, I think he found his bottom. And once you find your bottom from, just an overall understanding of life, and that this just kind of goes back to the Scotty interview. It's like when you find what your purpose is, and that golf isn't going to be everything. I think that a little bit of that was probably understood from JT after a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, I'll say JT had my one of my favorite in-person quotes of the year when I saw him at the Seminole Pro member. I was asking, "Hey, how's it going at home?" And it's great and everything's good. It's like, so you get good at changing diapers. He said, "Charlie, you don't want to get too good at that. You'd like to not get. You just want to be good enough at that. So you don't have to be on diaper duty all the time." I love that. It was a good one to stick away. I think that. Briefly, because I do want to kind of shift to 26 and look at some of those majors and look at some odds boards, but we had you got to kind of look at live, and outside of Bryson's good play, and I think Tyrrell Hatton, John Rahm bounced back to an extent, but I mean, I cannot believe where we are with Cam Smith now. We're a guy that won at St. Andrews a few years ago and was one of the best putters on the planet. Is just a non-factor. It's not even like you go looking for his name on the leaderboard anymore. And I don't know what's happened there other than maybe just he was riding a really hot putter for a long stretch and was, maybe just okay or above average in other categories. And then if you lose that piece, you're not going to play well. But Cam Smith and Joaquin Neiman, we keep waiting for this breakthrough for a guy that's young and talented and has played well in other events internationally leading into these majors, but just never really has the elite performance we want. And then Brooks Koepka. I mean, it's just, had this sort of rebirth, but feels like he's trending back down again, whether that's a health thing or a form thing. It was a mixed bag for the live guys this year.
It definitely, and I think Joaquin, let's say he went 29th at the Masters, 8th at the PGA, which he kind of snuck in and got that backdoor top 10. So that was the thing that was held over him, that he's never top 10 in a major. And so we felt like, okay, that's going to be what he needs to take it to that next level at these next majors. Then he misses the next 2 cuts at those majors. So Brooks missed 3 cuts in majors this year. So that's completely shocking. And he's got nothing else to play for as far as just getting onto the Ryder Cup team. He has no other events to play besides live events. And I don't think him winning anything over there is going to be enough for him to make the team. I think there's plenty of other options. And it's a shame because I want Brooks on the team. I want him playing his best, but I just don't think he's even a factor right now to be picked. So definitely surprising. I would say Rahm and Bryson, were definitely had their moments in major championships this year. Rahm was very close to the PGA, and then Bryson, like you were talking about it, I believe the Masters, right? That was actually the PGA too. It was the PGA. Yeah. And then and then the iron game at the Masters is what kind of faded for Bryson at the Masters this year.
Well, Bryson's final group in the Masters, and Rory doubles one, and we're right there.
Yeah, that's right. It was Bryson
and he completely falls off the pace, and then it was Bryson again, has a chance on both Saturday and Sunday at Quail, and just make some weird decisions with club choice and just shot shape, and then of course misses the cut at the U.S. Open. But Bryson, it's I don't want Bryson to change because I just find him delightfully entertaining in the way his mind works. I think it is really, but it's just, there's sometimes where I feel like he can't get out of his own way a little bit. And I just wonder, I don't think that ever does change because he's such a unique character, but I think at times it's cost him at the biggest events of the year.
Maybe so. And I think the other thing is with just looking at the Live Golf Tour, playing major championships, I think sometimes in our head is that, oh gosh, the live players aren't playing well at the majors. And we have to remember too, there's probably only like 15 or so guys that play in these majors, maybe 20 at some of them. So it's a very small sample size of guys that are playing, which I know the other guys are probably not playing well anyways, enough to at least, finish top 5 in majors. But when we look at the top 10s this year, there was 3 at the PGA. There was only 1 at the Open. That was Bryson, which was a backdoor one, 2 at the Masters, and then 3 top 10s at the US Open. And it just seems like to me this year, and maybe I am just looking at it from the wrong lens, but when I would look at the leaderboard at all these majors this year, it never felt like it was dominated ever by the Live Golf Tour. Like it never had like a Hatton, Bryson, Rahm, whoever else you want to name of other random Live players, but it just never have had more than those guys. Like those are their best players. They would show up at times. But it just didn't feel like there was other guys that stepped through like Sergio or whether it was like an Abe Answer playing. I don't know if he played any majors, but I'm just trying to think of other names. But Carlos Ortiz would be the only other outlier player that stepped up in a big event. That was the US Open. But other than that, it just seemed like it was a bit of a down year because they're coming off a year where Bryson wins the PGA and almost he finishes second at the PGA, wins the US Open. So that was considered to be a good year because they had a winner, and then they go a major season without one. It seemed like that was not quite the year they were looking for.
I thought this was a super interesting chart. Our guy Sean Laurie, who's always on the Live Stats for us, sent over a table of Live golfer major results. And so breaking down, there were 62 total entries of Live players in majors this year. 48% of them missed the cut. 52% of them made the cut. 39% top 40 finishes, 26% top 25 finishes. These are all, and then these subsequent numbers, you're going to say the math's not adding up. No, I'm saying of the 52% that made the cut, then this is how they finished in that breakdown. So 39% top 40, 26% top 25, 21% finished in the top 15, 15% in the top 10, 8% top 5, 3% top 3, and 1.6% just one player runner up of those groups. So it paints a picture for me in looking at, and again, not a math pod, not a stats inside pod, but just of you had those high peak moments. You had the Bryson win. You had the Brooks win that a lot of people felt like, ooh, the tide could be turning. You get a guy like John Rahm to jump ship. It feels like the air is kind of steadily being let out of that balloon. And we're getting to a place where there are the clear-cut guys who they're going to show up at every major and contend, and then you get a few kind of random guys in the mix. But outside of that, it's just it's not as competitive as of a league as they'd hoped it would be by now.
For sure. We know who can play and who's shown up and show that they can play. So I think the biggest one is still – I think their crown jewel that just hasn't shown up quite yet at majors, and I don't know why, is Joaquin Niemann. That's the biggest one to me.
Strange.
Is if they can get him going at majors, I think it kind of opens up more discussions about the tour. But until they get him going, it feels like, we know Bryson, Rahm, and Hatton are going to be dudes that play well. Like that's not surprising to anybody. Yeah. And we want them to play well. They're fun players to watch. But Joaquin's the one who you have to wonder, would he have, played any better at major championships if he's still playing on the tour? I don't know. But that's the hypothetical you play.
All right, let's rip through the 2026, the current outright winner odds at all 4 majors. We're going to start with the 2026 Masters, and I'm just going to read you, Smylie, the players that are shorter than 20-1 odds to win outright at each of these tournaments. So the Masters actually has the most, 7 players shorter than 20-1 odds, which I find interesting. But you read these names, and there are these – the horse for course at Augusta National. You'll see these names like, yep, they're always up there near the top of the board. Scotty Scheffler is currently 3-1 to win the tournament. Rory McIlroy currently 5-1 to win the tournament. Xander Schauffele 11-1, Bryson DeChambeau 12-1, Ludwig Oberg 14-1, John Rahm 14-1, and Collin Morikawa 18-1. It's interesting to me that there are so many up there, but then you look at the guys. Of course, you have the winners: Scotty, Rory, Rahm, and then you have the guys that are just always in and around it: Xander, Bryson, Ludwig in the 2 years he's played, and Collin Morikawa. I'm excited to see all these guys trot out there in 26 and see what they do. I just hope that a few of those guys, like Ludwig's offseason, even Collin Morikawa, just hope they find something in the next few months heading into 26 where they can kind of regain that elite form to see some contend here every year.
Yep. And then we're off to, where's the next one?
PGA Championship in 2026 is at Aronimink.
Aronimink.
Is it Aronimink? Aronimink. Yeah,
Mick.
Mink. Aronimink,
Really?
M-I-N-K. Yeah.
Okay.
A Donald Ross course outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I'm familiar with it. They've had a PGA Tour
yes.
BMW there, I think, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. It's a obviously in that greater Philadelphia area, the collection of golf there is phenomenal. We know the sort of setting. I mean, different designers, but the topography that we saw at Philly Cricket this year, not exactly the same, which should feel similar to that and sort of this section of Pennsylvania. 6 players shorter than 20-1. Scotty Scheffler at plus 350. Rory at plus 650. And this is where the board changes a little bit. Bryson DeChambeau's next shortest odds at 10-1. Then John Rahm at 12-1. Xander Schauffele at 14-1. And Ludwig Oberg at 18-1. So you're dropping Collin off there, which makes sense because Collin's kind of played well at Augusta National. And I guess they think his struggles as it currently stands, not a factor there. So that's your PGA board. Any notes there? Shall I continue?
You shall.
I shall indeed. 2026 U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills. This is the one I have triple circled in Sharpie. I cannot wait for this U.S. Open. 6 players shorter than 20-1. Scotty Scheffler still the outright favorite there, plus 320. Rory McIlroy a plus 650. Bryson at 10-1. John Rahm at 12-1. Xander Schauffele at 14-1, and Ludwig Oberg at 18-1. So similar usual set of suspects. And then this one is the one that was wild to me. So Open Championship 2026 Royal Birkdale, only 4 players are shorter than 20-1. Scotty Scheffler at 3-1, Rory McIlroy plus 650, John Rahm at 11-1, and Xander Schauffele at 16-1. And I looked up and down this board, and I even checked again before this show. Bryson DeChambeau is not on this board anywhere to be found. And it's not because he's not in the tournament, because he gets a 5-year exemption from his 2024 U.S. Open win at Pinehurst. So he will be playing, he'll be, in the field for this tournament already. The best guess I have in my head is they have no clue what to make of what they just saw at Portrush. Do we get Thursday Bryson, or do we get Friday through Sunday Bryson? Because those are 2 very different golfers to handicap.
I mean, I'm not concerned where Bryson's going to fall on the board. He's going to be a top 5 player on the board.
It's just so interesting that he's not up there already. I don't
know.
Yeah.
I think for those people that are trying to bet already a year in advance, good on you.
Don't.
I can't imagine. But Birkdale is where Jordan won his major, or Open Championship major, I should say. Shinny, who won at Shinny? Why am I trying to remember that?
Brooks, I believe.
Brooks won at Shinny. Don't remember who won at Aronimink. Aronimink. I feel like Jason Day. What does that feel right?
Let me pull. I should have pulled all this. I just didn't know how deep we're going this. Okay, so your the last time they hosted
Keegan Bradley,
wow. 2018, and then was the AT&T National in 2011. Nick Watney and Justin Rose in 2010. Justin Rose, another guy we talked about as being a major championship contender frequently, could be a name to look at. And then the last time they hosted a major, 1962 PGA Championship, Gary Player won that major.
All right, so now that we all know what the majors are next year, I want you to give me a opinion whether you like this major schedule more or less than the 2024 major schedule.
In terms of venues?
25, sorry. So this is 26. So we're looking at 26 venues compared to this year in 25. Which one do you prefer?
So we're comparing Quail Hollow, Oakmont, and Royal Portrush to Aronimink, Shinnecock, and Royal Birkdale. I'm going to go with 26. Yeah, I'm going to go with 26.
What does it for you?
A couple things. As you know, as a proud Hope Valley member, Donald Ross, Aronimink in the Donald Ross tree. So I love when we throw a little good Donald Ross course in the mix. And I didn't get to play Shinnecock, but I just got to just look at the layout and played next door, and I was like, this golf course is just it's you instantly fall in love with it, and so I'm just so excited to see that major. And then I probably, if you're telling me to pick between Portrush and Birkdale, I'm picking Portrush. But I think given the weight of the other two courses, I'm taking those two. And that's no disrespect to Oakmont. That's another course that I'm dying to play as well. But I think really this is, after all the defense I've done of Quail Hollow, this is me kind of marking down Quail Hollow a little bit against these others.
I just don't know if I can put Aronimink over Quail Hollow. I just don't know enough about it. So that would be the one deciding factor. Is I remember watching Royal Birkdale on TV, but I just got back from Royal Portrush. So in my brain, it takes a lot for a course to be better than that. I would say that Shinny and Oakmont, comparing those two is very difficult because I love Oakmont as a US Open venue, but I also know how much I like Shinny for not even playing it, but driving by it just like you. So immediately my brain goes to this year, 2025, but it's very, very close. And this was a very, very good season from a venue standpoint. But I just don't know enough about the PGA Aronimink. And then I feel great about the US Open, feel great about the Open. I just don't know what's going to be a better venue from a Quail sense at the PGA or Aronimink.
I mean, Aronimink, this
is... Are you sure it's Aronimink? This doesn't feel right saying it's Aronimink.
I mean, it depends on how fast you say it.
Aronimink.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
it's not Mink, it's Mick. Mink.
It's spelled MINK.
I think it could be a Mink though, not Mink. Aronimink.
Are you saying Pam or Pan?
Yeah, I think. Who's in the? Can we get some people that?
You know what? This is good. This is good because I have a long-standing bone to pick with you. Is that every time we talk about Joaquin Neiman, you call him Joaquim.
Joaquim trying to dominate. Joaquim, we ain't doing it. I put my heart in this thing. God, I'm glad you picked me up there.
You said dominate. We ain't doing it. That's the best place in the show. Go search Ed Reed. I'm hurt, dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right.
I know somebody right now is on a flight and they've been sleeping through the end of this thing and they just woke up to you yelling. So
Joaquin said dominate, we ain't doing it.
I'm tired.
Put my heart in this. One of the great inspirational speeches of all time. And that's no better way to let you know that, as major season wraps, we both have college football in the mind. Golly, I went to Keene today. I walked to the Carolina football facility.
All right, I'm done.
Oh.
See you.
Hey, well, you know what? Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's been a fun major season. We enjoyed recapping 25. We're looking forward to 26. Any final thoughts, Smylie, before I start filibustering on Carolina football depth chart?
I got nothing, man. It's currently 9:15, so that would be
an hour and 20 on this now.
It'd be 3:15 in the morning. Still kind of where I just was. So sorry if I had a couple of yawns in there. But that was great. I enjoyed that convo, and we got some good players coming in the feed coming up over the next couple of weeks. But next Monday, I would expect that we are going to, of course, do a recap for the 3M. But also, I think it'd be a good time heading into the Wyndham Championship. We're going to just give you a full heads up of everything you need to know about who's on the borderline of making the Memphis top 70, and also who could be missing a card and heading back down to the Corn Ferry if there's any names and news to note. So just a full kind of PGA Tour FedEx Cup breakdown, as I'm sure a lot of people haven't been paying attention, and it's a different year. So that will be in the feed on Monday, player on Wednesday, and before we know it, it's going to be playoffs. So
yeah, looking forward to that. On the topic of classic Donald Ross's, we'll be at Sedgefield, so looking forward to that. We appreciate you watching and listening as always. We'll be right back here very soon. Talk to you soon.
peace.
I listen to this podcast. It's really cool. And
all of our lovely fans and subscribers, but make sure you like and subscribe.
It's cool to see what you guys are doing. I know golf fans appreciate it, but we do too, so please keep it up.
For all the good people of YouTube, like and subscribe.
You guys have some good takes, so I'm happy to come on and shoot the